We were told that the Big Bang was the start of the universe, and we never questioned it. However, it doesn't answer important questions. For example, what existed before the Big Bang? If the Big Bang happened because of nothingness, who or what created that nothingness? The Big Bang theory also suggests that the universe is expanding in all directions, but it doesn't explain what the universe is expanding into. What is at the edge of the universe?
They'll say space and time was created at the Big Bang, and some people will say nuh-uh or whatever, but this is the thing. Think about this. So a singularity is an infinitesimally small point. It's smaller than you can even comprehend, right? A singularity. And actually gravity can't be applied to it. Relativity doesn't work. They just throw that away. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. So you have a singularity, just like God, right? It's the smallest, infinitesimally small point you can imagine, a singularity. And everything in the universe started there, allegedly, okay? And then it expands all directions. There's like a big bang, an explosion, expands in all directions. Okay? And it has space in it. Space and time and matter and energy all come from the singularity. What is it expanding into? That is how easy it is to debunk the Big Bang, bro. Oh, space expanded into nothing. Seems legit. Completely refute modern cosmology. Is to show and highlight the problems that required you to have dark matter. So I'll recap it real fast. 1933, Fritz Zwicky went and looked at a cluster of galaxies, just a group of galaxies. And the galaxies should have been escaping the cluster because they're supposedly held in by gravity. But you need a certain amount of mass to hold those huge galaxies in. There was only 1% of the mass that would be needed for the gravity to be strong enough to hold them in. They just made up dark matter to try to say, oh, well, there's 99% of this invisible stuff that acts like matter, but we don't know what it is, to keep their theory alive, to keep their gravity alive, okay? And then you just keep going. We have more and more and more dark matter. Where now they say 83% of all the mass in the entire universe is dark matter, okay? Assuming dark matter is real, whatever it is, it's now been debunked up to 99.99999% certainty, right? Because they watched where the dark matter would have to be. So it's easy to understand how they spot where dark matter is, right? The gravity prediction doesn't work. There's not enough mass. So to make it work, they say, oh, there's more mass there. I promise you just can't tell what it is, and we don't know what it is. Well, when they look out and they assume that dark matter's there so they can keep their model alive, it doesn't work. It doesn't do what it have to do. If it's actually material, right? If it has properties of matter, it would be causing resistance. It would slow things down as they interact, but it doesn't do that. Okay, so since dark matter has been falsified, relativity has been falsified, Newton has been falsified, therefore the universe model using those versions of gravity has been falsified. Evidence of that is all these people proposing modified Newtonian dynamics, trying to fix the problem without the need for dark matter, but even that doesn't work. Okay, very simple. Next thing is redshift. Okay, redshift is, again, it's like when the ambulance comes towards you, it sounds one way, it gets in front of you, it sounds a certain way, then it starts sounding different when it gets away from you. Okay, and it's the idea of that sound changing based on it coming to you or going away from you, only with light, right? And as it goes further away from you, it gets closer to the red end of the light spectrum. It goes away, it gets closer to you, then it goes towards the blue, right? And so they say, look, that's why there's redshift, because everything's moving away from us. Now, a lot of the stuff closer is blue, and they say, oh, well, it's because it's moving, and since its movement overcomes the distance moving away from us, it makes it look blue or whatever. The problem is, in fact, there are some things that are blue that are too far away, and there's some things that should be red that are blue, even though they're closer because of the size and the supposed speed and all the stuff that shouldn't be blue. And then there are things that are way closer that have way more redshift and stuff further away. Okay, and there's many other things. Just the actual redshift distribution, like the periodical nature of it, right? So the quantification of it, the quantization of it, it doesn't match the prediction based on the distances claimed. It would be a very specific distribution based on supposed distances, but it's not doing that. It's a very periodical thing. It doesn't match the predictions. There are many other things. Redshift doesn't work. And so again, to explain the history, and I know I've explained it so many times, I want people to just understand it and just, you can have this conversation with anybody. And if anyone's a truth seeker, right, they're going to be like, wow. And they're going to go fact check you. They're going to find out that this is all just easily verified. Okay. But then you get into Edwin Hubble. There's something called the Hubble constant, meaning that there's supposedly, now it's funny they call it constant, but they say it's accelerative. But anyway, there's an accelerative expansion, meaning that things are expanding, like blowing up a balloon. There's like this inflating expansion. So just you blow up a balloon, they call that the universe. And it's accelerating faster and faster. And it's supposedly going 4 times the speed of light. The whole universe, space itself, whatever that means, is expanding in all directions. And they said this because when we looked out in deep space, everything was moving in relation to the Earth, even though it shouldn't care about where the Earth is at all, because it's supposed to be this tiny little speck of dust in this insignificant corner. It doesn't matter. Out towards the edge of a galaxy that's in this insignificant random place. So it shouldn't matter. But everything we've ever seen moves in relation to the Earth. But they said, oh, well, it's just an illusion because everything's accelerating, expanding away from you. And they said evidence for that is redshift. And now we've seen, no, that doesn't make sense. It can't just be that things are moving away from us causing redshift, because it doesn't work, right? The redshift doesn't match that claim. So now you have a problem. And even if there weren't the redshift problems, you need energy to make this universe allegedly expand. You need a ton of energy, a specific amount. And so, but supposedly it's a vacuum out there. So they're like, okay, what energy can be strong enough to expand the whole universe and be in a vacuum? So they went and looked at vacuums on the Earth, vacuum chambers, and they found some quantum background energy, and that's because there's an ether. And then they tried to apply that to what they need in space, and it was off by 10 to the 120th power. It's 120 zeros. It wasn't even close. Doesn't work at all. So they have no explanation for this, and they call that dark energy because it's just this invisible, transparent, undetectable energy. They don't really know, but it has to actually cause the motion. And then you have dark matter. These combined make up 96%. the entire universe. Okay, if the Earth is stationary, you don't need dark matter because you can have just an ether. You don't need their versions of gravity, and you can have an ether. You can have substance there other than material. So you have matter, but then you have an actual substantive background. You don't need dark matter. Actually, if you get more detailed, right, like I said, what they call gravity is actually a non-point specific emergent property of the oscillations of a fluid background medium akin to an ether. It is an ether, right? I gave you the analogy of throw a rock in the lake, it'll ripple. Say you have a little toy boat in the lake. Once the ripple hits the lake, it moves the boat. Just like if you're on a boat and there's a wave and the boat moves, okay? That's all it is. Things move relative to the vibrations or the waving of the medium. That's what it is. So, and you don't need dark energy because the universe is not accelerating and expanding. The cosmos is just this closed, finite system, right? And that's what we observe. That's what we observe, is that redshift is based on something different, such as magnetism. And like electromagnetic retardation would explain it. Also, yes, there is some correlation to what we think looks further away being more redshifted, even though that's typically how they claim it is further away, right? But that would make sense anyway because the light has to come, you have to look at the light, because I don't think light travels, obviously. You have to see the light through such a greater distance of a medium that it causes it to be more and more redshifted because it attenuates, okay? And so light attenuation and or electromagnetic retardation will cause this phenomenon, okay? Therefore, you don't need dark matter or dark energy, which is 96% of their cosmology. You don't even need it, which means you're almost 100% more viable with a central stationary Earth. These are facts. These are facts. This guy. I mean, any rebuttal? And I guess what's weird about it is like, do you guys that fight this so hard, do you not want to know the truth?